with prayers. As we commence with prayers, we must bear in mind that more than 2.5 million people in the world depend on agriculture for income and food. As dry spells and/or floods continue to destroy crops and even livestock, we ask the Almighty to provide the right weather conditions for farmers and to help them to remain resilient during this challenge. Can we please adopt a prayer posture? Almighty Creator, as it is said in Corinthians 2, chapter 9, verse 10, now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. Merciful Provider, watch over farmers, especially our women farmers, and their crops during these times of vulnerability. We pray for your help for the farmers to become more economically empowered by learning and practicing good storage techniques so that they don't experience loss or waste. Father, bless all agri-entrepreneurs so families can live healthier, more secure lives. Help women become voices for improvement in their families and communities. Grant them wisdom in their decision-making. May their successes benefit their children and overflow to the nation, the region, and the world. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. You may sit. Honorable Dr. Virginia Albert Poyet, Minister for the Public Service, Home Affairs, Labor and Gender Affairs. Honorable Alfred Prosper, Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Food Security and Rural Development. Ms. Leslie Saunderson, Resident British High Commissioner. Ms. Crystal Otroma, Regional Counselor for Cooperation, Caribbean Region in the Embassy of France to the Eastern Caribbean and Barbados. Ms. Sophie Picavet, Director Alliance Française. Mr. Omari Frederick, Senior Manager, Marketing and Corporate Communications, Bank of Saint Lucia. Ms. Ayadeli Hippolyte, Press/Political Officer, British High Commission. Ms. Sonita Daniel, Chief Executive Officer, Export Saint Lucia. Dr. Keith Nurse, Principal, Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Ms. Tracy George, Senior Advancement Officer, Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Ms. Kathleen Carew, Executive Director, Helen's Daughters. Board members, other invited guests, good morning. Please allow me to be the first to welcome you to the launching of Helen's Daughters advocacy campaign, dubbed Helping Helen Thrive, sorry. Welcome. Bienvenue. At this point, having set the pace, I now invite Ms. Winneva John, Public Relations Officer of Helen's Daughters, to give you an official HD welcome. Ms. John?
Thank you. Protocol has been established. A warm good morning to everyone, and welcome to the launch of the International Day of Rural Women. A special welcome to all eminent speakers and guests from all over to share their knowledge and vast experience with us. Annually, the United Nations observes October 15th as the International Day of All Rural Women. And we at Helen's Daughters believe that rural women empowerment is key and food security and agri-business. Therefore, with this observation, Helen's Daughters will launch a new campaign called Helping Helen Thrive. This campaign is aimed to send a national message in response to many issues crippling the island. These include, but are not limited to, issues surrounding food security, high food import bills, low investment in agriculture by the state, and high levels of non-communicable diseases. It is also intended to pay homage to rural women in agribusinesses. I was also a small-time backyard farmer until I came across Helen's Daughters, which was introduced to me by a family member who sent a link to sign up for the Helen's Daughters Rural Women's Academy, which ran through the 10th of February until the 28th of April of 2021. Ever since, I have a different approach to agriculture and that of the mindset that has been implemented by the system for years, that agriculture is for the uneducated. It is really a business, and the entire nation rely on it in order to eat. As our logo says, if you eat today, think of a farmer. Women are the fastest growing group of farmers, and I believe that it is good for everyone because women tend to be community oriented. In closing, there is a quote that really reaches out to me that goes something like, if you teach a man to farm, his family will eat. If you teach a woman to farm, the community will eat. We women are the future of farming, and I believe if women farmers gain access to the same resources as their male counterparts, the entire world will eat too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. John, for this warm welcome and a prelude to the first recognized observation, well, that I am aware of the International Day of the Rural Woman. Kudos to Helen's Daughters for initiating this activity. Okay. Helen's Daughters, being a non-profit, is duty-bound to partner with organizations which are aligned with its core values for funding its projects. This campaign, here today, is jointly funded by the French Embassy and the Bank of Saint Lucia. It is against this backdrop that I invite Ms. Christelle Otrama to offer some remarks which speaks to the Embassy's involvement in today's activity. Oh.
Merci, bonjour. Protocols has been established, and I want to say I am delighted to co-host this special event for Helen's Daughters on International Rural Women's Day on French soil, if I may say so, since we are at the Alliance Française, and Sophie Picavet here in the audience is the director of this institution. So those two causes, gender equality and the fight against climate change and the push for sustainable development, are indeed priorities of France. Today, I want to commend the courageous, outstanding, tough, and much needed work of women in the fields, on the farm, on the markets, in the world, in France, on French territories, in the Caribbean, and in Saint Lucia. In France, just to give you a comparison, women represent 30% of the agricultural workforce, and 1/4 of them are managers. They're the heads, and the number is growing, and that's a good sign. They were 8% in 1970, 27% in 2017. Many women work on the farm, but are also the spouse of the farmer, 21%. But only 17% receive a salary. In our French territories, women are also very numerous to work the land. Rum, bananas, guaya, chicken. The land in the Caribbean is extremely fruitful and rich, but also needs to be protected and taken care of for our future generations. As in France, many men are legally at the head of a family farm units, but women are the one handling it. On top of that, I want to say that, of course, as you all know, you add taking care of the family, nursing, feeding, and so many other chores. This day is dedicated to all the courageous women taking care of our common land, our common treasure. Women who are also, and we must say, the first victims of natural catastrophes. The French Embassy will continue to support the excellent work of Helen's daughter with, in December, a scheduled visit on one of the farms in Babonneau to see the work of the land through the prism of women. And I think initiatives like those are interesting for the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madame Autrema. In staying with our French connection, I now invite Madame Sophie Picavet, Director of Alliance, to make a little speech. Thank you.
Bonjour à tous, bienvenue à l'Alliance française. I'm gonna stop here in French. I am Sophie Picavet, the director of the Alliance française, and it is very important for us to open our doors to associations such as Helen's daughter. Network is important. Saint Lucia is also the head of the network of Alliance française in all Eastern Caribbean, and we do promote actions and events all over the Caribbean. And linked on gender equality, we have a coming action that's going to be very important, and I'm sure Helen's daughter is going to be able to take part of it on a hackathon on gender inequality. So we are happy to open our doors to Helen's daughter for the new campaign, Helping Helen Thrive. Sorry about the accent, I'm doing my best. And I just would like to read a little quote that is going to be also in English, because I know not all of you speak French. And this quote is from Mother Teresa. Seul, je ne peux pas changer le monde, mais je peux jeter une pierre dans l'eau et créer de nombreuses ondulations. And this is why we want actually to collaborate with Helen's daughters. And in English it sounds like, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. And this is why Alliance Française is opening its door today. So thank you very much, and to a wonderful launching event.
Thank you, Madame Picavet. Incidentally, Alliance Française was home to our first Helen's Daughters Ag Academy. That was, I think, in 2017, 19? Okay, thank you. And we appreciate you continuing to open your doors to us. We've come to our much anticipated segment of the program, the presentation by our executive director and founder of Helen's Daughters, who will enlighten you on what brought us here today. Miss Kathleen Carroll.
Good morning, everyone, and happy International Day of Rural Women. It seems that the MC might have seen my speech, because what I was going to start with is that it's fitting to be at Alias today because this is the home of the training program. But more kudos to Alias and the French Embassy for their support. I just wanted to start by saying, as a rural woman whose lineage is that of endearing rural women from the hills and valleys of Babonneau, as I'm sure you can also relate to Dr. Poyot, I am delighted to bid you a happy International Day of the Rural Woman, and to thank you for making the time to celebrate this momentous occasion with us. International Rural Women's Day is a day before World Food Day. Just think about it. Why do you think it would be a day before World Food Day? It's about food, but it's because women are actually the first formal contact of food for most, if not all, human beings. But yet still, they tend to be continuously left out of the discourse when it comes to food security and the agricultural value chain. In 2008, actually, the UN declared October 15th as International Day of the Rural Woman to honor the crucial role that women play in ensuring the sustainability of rural households and communities. These are our medicine women, our agri-scientists, and our keepers of indigenous knowledge, and yet still they are left behind. Interestingly enough, rural women make up 1/4 of the world's population, and 1 in 3 employed women around the world works in agriculture. And if we all can admit it to ourselves, 80% of Saint Lucia is rural, so the focus is a bit unskewed. We all know a rural woman. Oftentimes, we have been raised by one. It is with this reason that we as Helen's daughters have decided to amplify this observance and highlight our rural women in St. Lucia through the lens of agriculture. I remember very candidly in 2016 when I was pitching the idea of Helen's daughters and why I think the focus had to be on gender equality in agriculture. Someone, who I will not mention names, said to me, "But women are hucksters, they're not farmers." And I was taken aback, but then I realized that's the problem. Oftentimes, women hold a dual role, sometimes triple role: unpaid house care, caring of elderly, of children, and so on. They're in charge of marketing the produce. If we can just take a walk to Castries Market right now, 90% of them are female. And oftentimes, they're also the producers. And yet still we relegate their roles as hucksters. And even then, a huckster is an essential part of the agricultural value chain. Amidst the growing challenges of food security, trade disruptions because of the pandemic, climate change, and navigating the sustainable development agenda, we believe it is important to continue to underscore the role and value of the rural woman as a key stakeholder in finding solutions to these challenges. Moreover, agriculture should be at the forefront of combating COVID-19, with such a high number of persons suffering from lifestyle diseases that are typically associated with their diet. Agriculture should be one of the solutions to this pandemic. I must say that when we started Helen's Daughters, essentially it was an advocacy campaign. We noticed the invisibility and the undervaluing of rural women, and we continued to highlight that. Then a year in, we realized, wait, we're highlighting the problem, but we're not introducing any solutions at all. And one of the solutions that we noticed was that there was a lack of agricultural education training programs that specifically targeted women in agriculture or trying to get into the sector. And also, we noticed that there was a lack of mentorship. There was lots of programs, there's lots of resources, but there's a lack of hand-holding. And when we first started our training academy here at Alias, we started off with 30 persons in 2018 or 2019. 19. The very next year, when we celebrated our graduation ceremony at the British High Commission, because thanks to them, they were the first sponsor of our Rural Women's Academy, we were hit with the pandemic. So what did we do? We adapted. And that adaptation actually ended up being an opportunity out of an obstacle. That year, we got 118 women to subscribe to our registration program. The following year, we got 200 women. And we got 80% of those women continued to actually graduate because we had certain agreements with them that they needed to attend classes, pass exams, and so on. And this year, I'm very proud to say that in collaboration with the University of the West Indies and the Food for Change program, we have actually expanded our agricultural training programs to our sister islands of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and St. Kitts and Nevis. And we had actually allocated 40 seats. We got 359 registrants. So clearly, there is a gap, and we are trying to fill it. The future is quite bright in agriculture, and I believe it is possible for St. Lucia to be a world-class leader in agricultural development. But this has to be done out of a social partnership. I know we tend to blame government, or government blames CSOs, and vice versa, and the blame game goes on and on and on. But truly, if we can achieve agricultural development, it has to be through a strong social partnership between civil society, the public sector, and the private sector. And again, tradition has shown us that the support models from before do not work. So what we are asking for is an opportunity to allow pathways for women and the most marginalized to be able to enter the sector. This is why we have decided to launch this campaign. This campaign is aimed at raising awareness of the value of the work of rural women in agriculture, and by extension, the work of Helen's Daughters. More specifically, It punctuates how the function of women in agriculture connects to other critical parts of our lives, such as wellness, queer literacy, technology adaptation, and even more. The campaign Helping Helen Thrive is all about really redefining the image of agriculture while also spotlighting women in agriculture. We have to be honest with ourselves. We want persons to be involved in the sector, but we're not making it attractive or, dare I say, sexy. So how are we supposed to redefine it? And this is why we are starting with this campaign. It will feature exciting social media promotions with meaningful prizes and giveaways, special weekly programming, featured articles with industry leaders, and pioneering female farmers, digital events, and more. The campaign will run from October 15th today to December 18th. You can find out more of following our social media pages and so on. But I just wanted to give two more shout outs to my HD sisters. Today is your day. These ladies honestly have continued to impress me and inspire me. They have showed me how transformative agriculture can be, from the single mothers who have found economic stability through the soil, the survivors of gender-based violence who have found freedom in the farms, and to the undervalued farmers who have grown to become agricultural entrepreneurs. Today, I salute you and I ask you to celebrate yourselves. And also, I have to show my appreciation. Every single person in this crowd was invited for a particular reason. Dr. Poyot and Mr. Prosper, I think that it shows by your appearance here that you are standing in solidarity with our mission and our support for women in agriculture, and I thank you for coming here today. Sophie and Christelle, of course, you were the very first home of the Rural Women's Agricultural Academy and also a partial sponsor of this launch, and I cannot thank you enough for your continued support. Ms. Ayodele Hippolyte from the British High Commission, who has been one of our champions, also was one of our sponsors for the first two Rural Women's Academies. Ms. Sunita Daniel from Export Saint Lucia. We are launching a brand new set of programming for women in the export markets alongside Export Saint Lucia, and we're truly excited, and as a rural woman herself has promoted us quite a bit. Our friends from the South Louis Community College, Dr. Nurse and Mrs. George, I would just tell, we stole one of the brightest agricultural scientists, I would say, Linnell, who you met on the way in, through an internship, through the collaboration with the World University Service of Canada and South Louis Community College. So thank you again for your continued support and for being here. Mr. Omari Frederick from Bank of St. Lucia, who hopped on board at the very last minute, but very enthusiastically supporting us and hopefully forging a long-term partnership with us. To our HD sisters who are all here, I really hope I'm not forgetting anyone, but I want to thank you so very much for being here today and for your continued support. And before I go, this is the highly anticipated unveiling. This will be on your TV stands for the next few months, so get used to us. But I would like to now introduce to you the new campaign, Helping Helen Thrive. Thank you, everyone.
These are the hands that sow the seeds. These are the hands that nurture and grow. These are the hands that provide protection. These are the hands that feed. These are the hands that care. These are the hands that help Helen thrive.
Before we move on, can the driver of PC 8399 please move your vehicle? You're obstructing traffic. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that you got chills watching the video, didn't you? And our presentation won't be complete without an actual testimonial. And this is when I invite Miss Alberta John, our board chair of Helen's Daughters, one of our board chairs, to give her presentation. But before I go, does anyone know the theme for this year's International Rural Women's Day? I guess nobody. Well, I did my little research and I found out that it is rural women cultivating good food for all. And I think that this theme speaks to how indispensable rural women and girls are when it comes to the provision of labor in the food systems of the world. Furthermore, according to the research, the United Nations Secretary General's Our Common Agenda says that this theme is a call for transforming our food systems so that all people have access to healthy diets that contribute to the restoration of nature, address climate change, and are adapted to local circumstances. Local circumstances again. By ensuring that rural women and girls participate in and benefit from this transformation, we can deliver the Sustainable Development Goals, including the Zero Hunger Goal, which is number 2 under the UN agenda, and gender equality, which is goal number 5. Ms. Alberta John will come now to give her testimony on how Helen's Daughters has impacted her life and how it's aligned with the goal of the UN. Ms. Alberta John.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Protocol has been established. I'm Alberta John, a proud member of Helen's Daughter. When I first started farming, people always question me, like, jeune femme comme vous, pourquoi tu sais ça ou ça pour faire? I would guess, or they was like, why is it this profession? Agriculture is for the uneducated people. I started selling my produce in the community with little support from anyone. People in my age group would laugh at me and made me feel discouraged. I eventually started searching for a job. I got a job with the Ministry of Infrastructure as a bus dispatcher. 2 weeks into the job, I felt my life was being ruled by my supervisor. I was unhappy and decided to send in my resignation letter. I went back into farming. I can remember planting 3,000 cucumber seeds, which was a very successful crop. I harvested thousands of cucumbers. However, I did not have a market. I did not know anyone who wanted to buy. One precious morning, June 7, 2017, to be exact, while browsing Facebook, I came across Helen's Daughters advertisement for the first academy. I sent them a message at 7:45 a.m. and received a reply within an hour. I participate in Helen's Daughters Farming Training Program, where I learned from the mentors, among other things, importance of bookkeeping and how to start a business. We had farm-to-farm visits and other practice activities too. Under the umbrellas of Helen's Daughters Market Open Up. Through this training, I was able to link with Massy stores where I have regular distribution of my produce. The training also ensured that I have minimal rejects when I supply. Today, I stand here 5 years later with a message of encouragement to more young people, women in particular, who are interested in agriculture or farming. If you need guidance, join Helen's Daughter. You'll be inspired. You'll learn that farming is not just planting. It is a means to independence, entrepreneurship, and it's also very gratifying. Thank you.
Thank you, Alberta, for that pitch for Helen's Daughters. A pity we don't have the young women here right now, but I'm sure they'll see the clip. We'll get some more members, although we are already inundated with members, including from SVG and St. Kitts. As I mentioned earlier, Helen's Daughters continues to forge relationships that are mutually beneficial to its participants. And we have recently started a partnership with Bank of Saint Lucia, who posits that their corporate social responsibility philosophy engenders the empowerment of rural women, women in agriculture, and the wider UN Sustainable Development Goals. Mr. Omari Frederick, Senior Marketing and Corporate Communications, Senior Manager, Marketing and Corporate Communications, Bank of Saint Lucia, please come to the podium.
Permit me to adopt the protocol which has been established. Before I begin, I would like to thank the Mistress of Ceremonies for hijacking my speech. I have absolutely nothing to say to you this morning. But on that note, happy International Day of Rural Women, the unsung heroes of resilient communities and custodians of our natural resources. Permit me first to extend kudos to Helen's Daughters and its many supporters, many of whom who are with us this morning, for the outstanding work in empowering women, fostering change, driving progress, and of course, fearlessly taking action. According to the World Bank, in developing countries, half of the world's farmers are female. They are the human link between farm and table, caregivers, entrepreneurs. It is an undisputable fact that in our corner of the globe, women are the backbone of our economy. As per previous accounts by Helen's Daughters' very own Kathleen Carew, the vast majority of women account for backyard gardening and small-scale agriculture, and this has the ability to reduce malnutrition and food insecurity up to 4 times more than large-scale agriculture. This makes women an integral part of the foundation of agriculture. As a global community, we must work towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, as the Mistress of Ceremonies mentioned earlier, in ending hunger and malnutrition, and of course advancing gender equality. At the very center of this, of course, are the agents of change, women in agriculture, nutrition, and rural development. We therefore cannot underscore the role of rural women as key stakeholders in finding solutions for the challenges of food security, climate change, and the Sustainable Development Agenda. A key catalyst for the improvement of food production and sustainable use of resources in Saint Lucia, of course, is access to information, training, and of course, appropriate technology. As an indigenous institution with over 4 decades within the Saint Lucian context, it is critical that we too lend our voice to the Sustainable Development Agenda, to advancing the empowerment of women, and working with all stakeholders for greater financial inclusion. These are the very principles of responsible banking. Financial education must be at the very core of our support, with the provision for appropriate solutions to build capacity and, of course, access critical financial solutions, whether it be banking, insurance, and appropriate payment systems. I'm extremely grateful to Kathleen Carew, Helen's Daughters, and the entire family for this remarkable opportunity to partner in fulfillment of mutual objectives, in moving the needle from surviving to thriving. We look forward to even more bold pronouncements in 2022. Bank of Saint Lucia hereby pledges today as your loyal partner to Helping Helen Thrive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick, for painting that real picture of the role of that, what you refer to as the human link between farm and table. And sorry for hijacking your speech, I didn't mean to. It's just that as a member of HD, I want all our partners to, and to encourage our partners to keep to their promises, their pledges, and so I had to make a reminder before you started. Helen's Daughters maintains that the government of Saint Lucia is kept abreast of its endeavors, particularly in supporting the Ministry of Agriculture in its aims of supporting women in agriculture and gender mainstreaming. One of our major achievements, which I must mention now, is the recognition of Helen's Daughters Rural Ag Academy program as a supplement to the Ministry of Agriculture's Farmer Certification Program. It was a very proud moment for us when it was accepted that the training, at the end of the training, the ladies could receive their farming IDs without going through the farmer certification program again. As mentioned earlier by Ms. Carew, the presence of 2 ministers here today is testimony of the interest of the government of Saint Lucia in what HD is doing. At this point, I have 2 ministers here. I'm not sure who to invite first because we're both gender sensitive as well as agricultural sensitive. But being a woman, I think I'll invite Dr. Virginia Albert Poyet, the Minister of the Public Service, to the podium first. Dr. Poyet.
Let me recognize the protocol that has been established, and I don't think you should have any difficulty deciding who comes first. In this government, there is no first, there is no second, we are just equals. And that is why we speak to gender equality. And when I look at the theme, rural women, sometimes I take objection to the word rural because we discriminate as to urban or rural. But this is a reality that we have to face. And I believe in bringing urban into rural. So there is no place called rural. All of us are urban, rural. Because there are a lot of facilities that are in the urban environment that also obtains in the rural environment. So at some point we have to erase the word rural because everything will be equal. As Minister responsible for gender affairs, I just want to go back to memory lane that over about 2 months ago, I engaged in a battle, not just for women, but also agriculture. And those of you who follow Saint Lucia politics, you would have known that I had a battle to fight in terms of the former Minister of Agriculture. And it tells you how passionate I am about agriculture. So I love this marriage of rural women in agriculture. So I take on the gender, and I take on the issue of agriculture, and I'm happy to be a woman. Okay, so I'm well pleased to speak to you on this. As I speak today, I want to tell you that we are going through some trying times in the time of COVID-19. And COVID-19 has created greater challenges for women. And those of you who have been experiencing it during the last year or so will understand what we are going through. And we know that women are very vulnerable, and COVID has made it worse for them. This issue of unemployment has exacerbated, and most of our women who are single mothers and heads of households are going through trying times. They are unpaid domestic workers. They are the caregivers, and they are the frontline persons, and we need them to combat COVID. The effects of COVID-19 has decreased employment. More women are unemployed now. There is an increase in domestic violence. And right now, the government of Saint Lucia is in the process of bringing some of the critical policies in the forefront. And that is the issue of domestic violence. And we have some outdated laws in our books that discriminate against women, against men. We have to address that with some level of urgency. Women are the frontline fighters against COVID. They are the ones who will bring back the economy because they are the ones who actually interact on a daily basis. In fact, they are the ones who direct the men as to what they're supposed to do. And I'm telling you that in fighting COVID, one of the issues we have not addressed is to get the women to influence their partners. And once we succeed in doing that, you will see the vaccination levels go up, and all of them will be wearing their masks, and all of them will sanitize their hands, and they will maintain social distance. When the woman has spoken, everybody listens. My dear people, I need to congratulate Helen's daughters. And not just Helen's daughters, I take pride in seeing that one of my residents from Babono, Kathleen Karu, took the initiative to launch this project. And I congratulate you on this tremendous effort. I want you to put your hands together. And I can guarantee you that you will have 110% support from me. And I am even pledging 120% from my colleague who is sitting there. My fellow audience, I want to make it clear that the government of Saint Lucia do put its people first. And that is why we speak to gender equality. And when we talk of gender equality, we do not talk about women in isolation. We are talking about the gender that is disadvantaged in any situation. And we have to give greater support to whichever gender that is disadvantaged so that we achieve gender equality. And that is where we talk about equity. Equity is to give more to the one that has less. And we have situations now, it is not a war between men and women, it's a situation where we assess which of the gender is disadvantaged. And I'm pleased to tell you that the Department of Gender Relations recently received over $48,000 from UNESCO to do a research on boys underachievement. So we are concerned about our men and our boys. So it is not a matter of women wanting to take over. We are taking over nothing. We are actually occupying the rightful place of women, and we encourage men to occupy their rightful place. And together we chart the way forward for development. We also speak to the issue of growing the economy. And I'm telling you, after COVID stepped into Saint Lucia, you should have seen, because I live in a rural environment, the number of people who went into their backyards and started clearing the lands to plant, because that was the only opportunity they had to begin to create employment or food for their family. Those who had lost their jobs, they were in a state of panic. And as a result, they immediately went into work by beginning to create their backdoor gardens and other things, and they were able to grow crops for them to feed their family without earning an income from a job. So here you can see how Helen Daughters is rightly placed to give that kind of support. We look at the issue of food security. And food security, you start from production, you look at turning the food into product that you can eat and secondary products, to putting it on the table. And the woman will carry it right through, from production to the table. So the whole food chain is, you'll see women occupying that space. They prepare the food, and they go by the market. They are mostly the vendors. They handle food on a daily basis. And if they understand the importance of food security, these women are playing a critical role to economic recovery. I make no apologies for this. The reality is there. The statistics are there, and we need to continue. I need to articulate the position of the government of Saint Lucia in this COVID environment. We understand the challenges that women and men are facing in our society, and as a result, the government has reached out in the sectors that are mostly affected. One, we look at education. And any government that places emphasis on education is concerned about the people and the future. And the government has gone out to provide supports in terms of school facilities, eliminating that for parents. And we know it's mostly the women that care for the children. They attend PTA meetings. The fathers are always very busy. They cannot attend. We have a situation where the government is actually looking at giving support to the parents. We have had the books and school supplies facility where the government has generated and raised over millions of dollars to provide that support. And you can see how the women tend to benefit, because usually they are the caregivers. They are the ones that stay back with the children. And as a result, it is a tremendous support for women. And in agriculture, as I said, this is the basis. And Helen Daughters, I'm just reminding you that in Babono, we had an agro-processing plant that has not thrived to the level. And I encourage my colleague minister to pay very close attention. It is something the Babono people are very passionate about, and that is the root. And we had a lot of our rural women involved in this project, and they suffered for some time. So we are actually pushing the agenda. I am committed to supporting Helen Daughters as one who has keen interest in agriculture, one who is bent and rooted in gender equality, and we look at the issue of diversity, and one who is committed to economic development. And I tell you, I stick to the theme of this government where we put you first. I don't want the men to hear that I'm putting women first. We put you first. Wherever you need help, we will be there to give you the support. Let me congratulate you. Let me wish you all the best. And I look forward to hearing greater things to come. I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Poyet. It looks like I made the right choice, because apparently not only do you have your gender ministry, but you also have your background in agriculture with the previous story that you gave about your woes with the previous administration and agriculture in Babono area. I listened carefully, and you made many pertinent points, but worth remembering, as I just told Mr. Frederick, I will be keeping you accountable for that 110% support you promised, as well as that 120% that the minister has not promised yet, but as you just said, equality, what you say will happen. That said, I now invite Mr. Prosper to the podium to make his presentation. Mr. Prosper?
Yeah, it looks like I need some water. Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me adopt the protocol that has been established because of time constraints. But let me also say how happy I am to be standing in front of this podium this morning to address Helen Daughters. And before going further, I want to state that I heard about Helen Daughters one day when I came from work in forestry, and there was an individual sitting right next to me, and she was actually participating in the training exercise that was happening at the same time. That is a training exercise, I think it started last year or sometime. And I asked, but who's this lady? Karu? Miss Karu? And I was told it's somebody from Babono. So I said, how come I served 34 years in the Ministry of Agriculture and I do not know her? So I listened and I listened. I remember one day there was actually someone from the Ministry of Agriculture actually doing a lecture presentation to the group. And I listened. But what struck me was the level of compassion coming from Miss Karu in terms of agriculture. The questions that she was asking, the way that she spoke, you could tell this lady has a passion for agriculture. And I must say, given where we are in this whole agricultural sector today, this is a very timely opportunity to have rural women working towards empowering women to get into the agricultural sector. We have an aging agricultural sector. Our men have average male. In fact, the agricultural sector, one could say, has been dominated by males. And I remember when I used to go to the garden with my parents, I didn't know my mother to be using a cutlass or using a knapsack sprayer. all she was doing is carrying that basket from the road to the farm. And in that basket would have the bread, the meat, and everything that has to do with cooking. All the ladies were responsible for during that time was preparing the food for the husband or the male person. But now, as you go around the country, you go around the world, you see a lot more women are integrally involved in agricultural production. And this is very healthy for the sector. Our agricultural sector, at this time, I must say, needs a major transformation. We hear the plight of our farmers in terms of unavailability of market. We hear the plight of persons when they speak of our high food import bill. You hear farmers complain that there are very little or no incentives to farmers. We hear the young people's plight in terms of not getting the support they need to encourage them to get into the sector. And this is very important because if our farmers who are in the range of 50, 60, 65 years now are preparing to leave the industry, then we must attract the younger persons. And if this is not done, we are going to have a major gap in the sector in the coming years. Food security remains a high priority for every country. And it is one of our sustainable development goals that we must achieve. Saint Lucia signed on to these sustainable development goals. And it is our duty to ensure that we achieve every single one of them. And if you are considering a country that is unable to produce enough food for its people, we are seriously heading for problems down the road. This day, International Rural Women's Day, coincides with World Food Day, which is going to be celebrated tomorrow. And it is really about a theme that speaks to our actions. Better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. So that tells us the value and importance of food. And not just food, but nutritious foods. And I was happy when Honorable Virginia Albert mentioned the COVID situation. It has been impacting the agricultural sector in a big way. Because of the high unemployment rate among our people, they are unable to access the right foods. And you see them when you go past by the Kentucky and these other places. They have no choice but to buy the chicken and the other stuff that may not be or is not the right or ideal foods for them. But because of the impacts of COVID, they have no choice. We have a serious problem with, as I speak, the banana industry in Saint Lucia. Our farmers are leaving the industry on a very, 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 very rapid rate, at a very high rate. Banana fields are getting into a state of abandonment. And yesterday, I had the opportunity to meet with the team of the Banana Production Improvement Project. And they are worried with the state of the industry because we have not been able to secure a reliable market in the UK to encourage our banana farmers to remain in the sector. As we speak, based on records received, we only have 526 banana farmers involved in active cultivation of bananas. In the last few years, it was over 1,000. So that tells us something is happening in the sector that we must address. Because just imagine if the banana industry today collapsed. 526 multiplied by 4 households, that is already 2,000 plus people will be directly impacted. Therefore, we have to understand this sector. There is need for us to give urgent attention to the critical needs of the sector to ensure that the sector continue to impact lives. One concern that the sector, I have in regards to the sector, is crop insurance. We've seen our farmers invest hundreds, thousands of dollars each year growing a watermelon crop or producing sweet peppers, producing potatoes. But a sudden hurricane just puts everything to zero, and it reduces him of his ability to be able to reap a profit. But at the end of the day, there is no insurance coverage for those persons to at least allow them to get some level of compensation to encourage them to continue. And let's imagine a small farmer takes a loan at Bank of Saint Lucia, for example. He invests it, and he's ready to harvest in the next 2 weeks. But a simple flood as a result of a natural disaster, he cannot reap a cent from his investment. Must be discouraging. That we have no support in terms of ensuring that that farmer can gain some level of compensation from insurance. So these are serious issues that plague the agricultural sector. This sector needs to encourage more young persons. But what are they saying? This is a dirty job. I don't want to be in the mud. But it's a mud activity. It is. You have to take the cutlass and do what you have to do. But it is not attractive to them. But the government of Saint Lucia is pushing this youth economy. And I believe if we give the young people the capital and to ensure that we give them the support, especially in this new direction that we must go, climate smart agriculture. Because climate change is impacting small island states like Saint Lucia. And we must adopt a different approach of producing our food. And I see that people who are best suited to go in this direction are the young people. You will not go to a farmer who has been in the sector for 30 and 40 years to ask him to conduct contour drains. He will not listen to you. He will say, but moi ka fait ça, combien l'année matin presse problème epi. But this is the way to go. We have to introduce climate special varieties that would resist certain, weather phenomenon. We have to encourage our farmers to understand that there are certain crops that they must produce at a certain time of year. We have to make them understand that we cannot go be operating as seasonal farmers, and that it's only during the rainy season we can produce crops. We have to move towards new technologies like irrigation to ensure that we continue to produce sufficient foods throughout the entire year, not some parts of the year. We must go in this direction, because if we do not go in this direction, we will always have a very high food import bill. The food import bill for the Caribbean stands now at $1.6 billion. Isn't that a lot? And a small island like Saint Lucia should be able to produce enough food that our food import bill will not be so high. But my ministry has been putting measures in place to address that. And I'm sure you all would know of the 7 Crops program that started sometime last year or year before. And it has been very, very successful in helping us reduce on the food import bills of those 7 crops. We are now adding new crops to the 7 crops. And one of those I know is the dragon fruit. There is a high market for it, high demand for it, and it is very easy to produce, easy to grow. And if we do not go in this direction, we are going to be always having to import foods that we can grow in Saint Lucia. I was asked to speak for 5 to 7 minutes, but I think I have gone beyond that. But I want to just take the opportunity to thank you for inviting me. I look forward to working with you on your group. I encourage you to continue the good work that you've been doing, and my ministry will always be available to support you in your venture, in your training programs. And I was told that you have already begun extending your training to other parts of the Caribbean. I want to encourage you to do that. And I want to let you know that your organization has a very integral role in the agricultural sector. And I look forward to working with you. And I wish you all the best And it was very nice meeting you for the first time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. As you mentioned, agriculture being dominated by males is definitely a thing of the past. As you'd have heard from everybody's presentation, women are involved from the beginning to the end, from planting seeds, processing, everything. Women are in the forefront of agriculture. I wanted to just quote something from what I read. Despite the planet's capacity to provide sufficient and good food for all, an increasing number of people are not getting enough food and nutrition. The COVID-19 pandemic, along with climate and environmental crises, have compounded food insecurity in many parts of the world. I think both ministers and those who came before, including Mr. Frederick, alluded to that. Significant loss of income and limited access to social protection, fueled this problem. Approximately 2.37 billion people did not have access to adequate food in 2020, an increase of almost 20% in just 1 year. And it was noted that rural women and girls are disproportionately impacted by this food insecurity, which Dr. Albert alluded to earlier on also. And what we want to do is recognize in our gender equality, as she said, is recognizing that the gender that is less, what's it? I try to use your exact words. The gender that needs more effort is the one that is disadvantaged, is the one that we're going to put effort into, and that is what we are concerned with as it pertains to gender equality, not putting women above men or men above women, vice versa. We have come to our end of our program, I think. I now invite Miss Keisha Daniel to the podium to give our vote of thanks.
Adopting the protocol already established, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Some say family is what you do after retirement, but I say, why wait? As you heard, rural women play a pivotal role in the agricultural industry. Your support and that of other stakeholders continues to propel us forward as we play our part in helping Helen thrive. I remember my thrust into the industry 2 years ago. I couldn't tell a banana from a plantain tree. Can you imagine? Born and bred in Dennery, with parents who grew bananas for over 30 years. I never really saw myself as a farmer. Coupled with being sheltered from that life by my parents, I never once spoke of who would take over after retirement. In their minds, this burden of a profession would be buried with them. My search for knowledge, for someone to help me navigate this journey, led me to an academy hosted by Helen's Daughters. The training sessions that they provide not only develops capacity in food production, but also allows for broader thinking, turning our backyard gardens into enterprises. Reading the mandate and what they hope to achieve, I knew I had found my home, the support that I and so many others needed. As a young female in the industry, it can be especially daunting to make linkages and voicing the inequalities that we face. Organizations such as these is vital towards our success and provide opportunities for mentorship and facilitates growth. The decision to become a represented member was a no-brainer. But a tiny part of me wanted to show off my newfound knowledge. You see, I had finally figured out the differences between a plantain and a banana tree. One has green leaves and the other has hints of pink. But I'll let you guess which. On behalf of Helen's Daughters membership, I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all present here today. To all who continue to support our organization, we are forever indebted. To my fellow rural women, your efforts do not go unnoticed. Today, we salute you. Continue to leave your mark in the industry. Once again, thank you.
Thank you, Winneva, and thank you everyone for being here with us this morning. Do look out for our Helen's Daughters campaign in the coming weeks. And thanks again for your continued support. Have a blessed day, all.
These are the hands that sow the seeds. These are the hands that nurture and grow. These are the hands that provide protection. These are the hands that feed. These are the hands that care. These are the hands that help Helen thrive.